All right, can everyone see the slides? Awesome. Okay, I see some thumbs up there. All right, so today we'll be discussing other in real life games, so in person games. Just a note for today's class: today's class is the last online class that we'll be having together. So, no more lectures after this. Instead, you'll be left to your own devices and you'll be creating your escape rooms, doing the playtesting, working on your assignments. Um, yeah, so this is the last class that we're going to actually learn stuff in, from me at least. I mean, you'll learn as you create your escape rooms. But yeah, this is the last online class. So looking forward to spending this time with you guys. Yeah, today's class is going to cover quite a lot. So we're going to go over what an in-person game is. Let me just add who's joining class. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we'll be going over what an in-person game is, what it means, what types we get. We're going to go through characters in games. We'll also go over ARGs. We'll go over LARPing again, just a brief touch on it. I know we've already discussed quite a lot on it. And then we'll be doing an exercise. So today's class is going to be a little bit more interactive than what it would normally be. So it's important that you pay attention and you ask questions and make sure that you understand the content so that we can do the exercise at the end. So please don't be scared to ask any questions. You can use your mic, you can chat in the text chat, whatever you feel comfortable with, but just make sure that you're paying attention. I'm also going to be asking questions in between, so it'd be nice if I could get some answers as soon as possible. I don't want to be sitting here for like 5 minutes waiting for someone to answer. So it'd be really cool if we could get some interaction going. All right. So to get started, we're going to go over what an in-person game is. And basically what an in-person game refers to is a game that you play with other people in a physical space. Okay, so you have to be in the same space as them, as the same vicinity, not sort of like an online game. It has to be within the same physical realm. Um, and in this module specifically, we'll only be talking about the games that are collaborative. So games that have more than one player. Because you do obviously get your games that are in person that maybe just one person will play. But instead, we're just focusing on the collaborative ones because we're doing escape rooms. Stuff that we discuss about the collaborative games make more sense, especially when we have a context of escape rooms. So just a little precursor or a little warning towards that. So some examples of in-person games that we already know about is obviously escape rooms. We know that it's got a lot of different people in there. We are in the same physical space. Obviously, we have our online versions as well, but we're again only focusing on the physical ones. We get our board games and our tabletop games, which we'll discuss a little bit more. We get our puzzle hunts and scavenger hunts, which we spoke about in the precursor section. So we're not going to cover this again. So escape rooms, puzzle hunts, that sort of thing, not going to cover them again. And then we get our party and our social games, which we'll go into. We get our physical activities, so using our body to play games. And then also, again, speaking about interactive theatre and immersive experiences a little bit more. I know we've spoken a little bit about the interactive theatre, but there's a little bit more that I want to mention there. So we will talk a little bit more about that. So when it comes to board games and tabletop games, these are physical games that you play with other people face to face in the same area, and it normally involves a combination of a board, so somewhere where you will put your tokens or your cards. It will include things like tokens and cards, as sometimes miniatures, and it is a combination of those that you put together. Okay, so it's not just cards or it's not just mini figurines. It's normally a combination of them, either cards and mini figurines, die, a board, like a whole bunch of different things. And the amount of time that these take really depend on the game that you're playing. Okay, so it can take maybe an hour to play, 2 hours. Some of the games that I play are a little bit shorter like that. But then, yeah, you get people who play for 8 hours, multiple days. Like they'll play it's the same board game, like the same story from the beginning to the end over a whole weekend, or even a few weeks, depending on the game that you're playing. So it really can vary. Yeah, D&D campaigns can span quite a few years as well. So it really depends on the game that you're playing and the level and that kind of stuff. And there's obviously characteristics associated with these kind of games. So First of all, it's a very high level of social interaction. You're playing with other people, you're collaborating with them. Um, you are going to have that social interaction. You're going to need to communicate, or you're going to have to make decisions, maybe to undermine the other people so that you can get ahead, or maybe you need to work together as a team against another team, that sort of thing. And with board games or tabletop games, there's normally quite a few rules. Okay, so it's very structured. Some board games come with its own Bible worth of game rules, and then some others literally come with a pamphlet, so or like a one pager or something like that. So it really depends on the game, but there are normally structured rules, and you have to understand these rules in order to play the game. And then obviously the shared physical space. So you're either in someone's living room, or you're in a designated area of the house that you play games in, or someone else's. Maybe you're out in public, you at Jick's Hobbies or something like that. So it's a shared physical space that you share with the people that you're playing with. Um, that's pretty straightforward. If there are any questions, just pop it in the chats and I'll answer them. So just some examples that I'd like to go through is Monopoly. Now, this is obviously not the best board game, but I think I included this, or I know I included this rather, because it's an easy entry point for some people who've never played board games. I'm not expecting all of us, yeah, exactly, Monopoly. Um, I'm not expecting all of us to know a lot about board games, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us have an idea of how Monopoly works and stuff like that. But we've got our cards, we've got our cash, we've got our tokens, we've got the board. We play this with other people. I think you do get a solo one where you have to beat the game itself, or the system. Um, but Monopoly is typically played with other people. You're trying to get richer, trying to earn more properties, that sort of thing. We also get games like Wingspan. I've never played this, but I've watched other people play this, and it does look really fun. I always just want to eat those little like eggs. They look like speckled eggs. Um, yeah, I'm very tempted, but I've enjoyed watching people play it, and yeah, this again has tokens, it has cards, it's got a board, that sort of stuff. Then we also get things like mystery case files. So these are not typical board games, but they do have similar elements. There's rules, there's cards, tokens, things like that that you have to go through. This is either to solve a mystery or a murder or something like that. Again, you're playing with a lot of people, and it's within a physical environment, so fitting into this tabletop board game situation. And then obviously D&D, this has a little bit of role playing in it as well, which leads us a little bit into like LARP and stuff, but not really LARP, but yeah, role playing. Also on a tabletop, doesn't have to have necessarily a board, but that can add. You can sometimes have figurines. You have your die, you have your tokens. A lot of the times you have little props as well to add to the atmosphere. So board games, tabletop games, they emphasize the social interaction, there's structured rules on how to approach the game, when it's your turn, when it's not your turn, and also take up a physical space. Okay, cool. So the next one that we get is party or social games. So these games are mainly for social interaction, quick play, fun. They're supposed to be light-hearted, quick to get into. And so the characteristics here is very minimal setup. You don't want to be spending a few minutes, like with a board game, for example, setting up the board, distributing cards to everyone, picking a token, that sort of thing. It's meant to be a quick setup, easy setup that you can kind of do anywhere, whether this is at your friend's house, whether this is at uni, wherever you are playing this game. It's or even in a bar. It's a quick setup. It's easy. You don't have to take a lot of moving parts with you. It's good for large groups, so up to like 8 people, like that. It's the more people, the better, right? It's really fun. The rounds are quite fast. You're not dilly dallying or deciding, making strategic decisions. You're kind of just making a decision, going for it. The next person goes. Very fast rounds. The rules are very easy to grasp in contrast to, yeah, Uno is a great example. So, what was I saying? Yeah, easy to grasp. Um, so you don't need a whole big rule book with structured rules and like a paragraph and everything like that. You literally don't even have to read. Someone will go, "This is how you play." Cool, done in 5 minutes. Yeah, card games, exactly. I will be going into examples shortly, so then you'll see if your examples make sense. And what I've also noticed is sometimes these party games or social games are accompanied by an alcoholic beverage. I personally don't do those ones, but I know that it's quite fun for some people. This is obviously not a fact. Not all party games have alcohol, but it is tend to be a thing. So in order, if you lose or something, the more you have to drink, or it's a very that kind of vibe. So some examples here are Cards Against Humanity. Beer pong is a great example. This is also an example of a physical one, but I've included it here as a party social game, just to give you like another context, another way to think of a an alcoholic beverage being introduced into a game, and how it's a quick setup rounds. There's not a lot of rules. You just throw the ball in, you're winning. There are a few rules like the elbow over the table, those sort of things, but those are relatively simple to understand, quick. The rounds is easy to set up. I think the thing that takes the longest is probably just pouring in whatever alcohol you're putting in the cups, or whether that's apple juice, in my case, that sort of thing. You also get heads up. That's literally just with your phone. You're in whatever area that you need to be in, maybe a lounge, maybe in class or something like that. Someone's in front doing like a charade sort of thing, acting something out, trying to guess, what these people are acting out. Very quick, and you can do it with a lot of people, right? It's not limited to a certain amount of people. And then Exploding Kittens, which is also really fun. Card games like Uno, like you mentioned, those kind of card games are also typically party games, very easy to set up. Even though they have cards, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a board game, because remember, board games are a combination of those things. So typically with party games, it's normally just one card or a die or something small like that. So yeah, it's relatively quick, easy, minimal setup, fast rounds, easy to understand, sometimes has alcoholic beverages. All right. We then get our physical activities. So these are games that require you to use your body and physical movement in certain ways. And this is typically the main mechanic of your game. So the main way that you would interact with your game, the way that you would play your game. The characteristics here is you're normally in a physical space that everyone can access. And it's sometimes in competitive teams. And the rules are simple, but they have ways of it being interesting and dynamic and can build onto one another. And great examples here are any kind of sports that you can kind of think of that have teams. So it's collaborative again with combination of different bunch of people. But volleyball, rugby, those sort of things, those are physical activities, physical games that you would play in real life. Um, and then a lot of kids games. So we have hopscotch. Like that might not be typical in the sense of like collaborative, but you do sort of work against other people, seeing if you can maybe do it better than them, or tag, for example, or even dodgeball. Twister is another great example. Twister is a little bit of a fun one because you're kind of combining things of a board game, because you've technically got a board. You are the token, but you're also using your physical capabilities here. Um, so yeah, physical activities is mainly using your body in interesting ways. Beer pong can also count here because you are essentially using your body to throw things. Those are skill-based activities. Um, Charades, I wouldn't say. I guess it depends. Yeah, charades, typical charades, yes, physical activities. But heads up, for example, we're using something like like a different way of doing it. So maybe it's more of a party game. Charades also a party game, easy to set up, minimal setup. Physical activities I do think require a little bit more setup. So for example, sports and stuff, you obviously need like your ref, or you need the certain kit that you need to wear and stuff like that. With kids games, you need your area like your hopscotch. With dodgeball, you need the balls. So I would say the main difference there is the setup and how quick it is. Because of sports game, for example, or charades could last a little bit longer than maybe a simple party game. So I guess it depends on how you want to structure it, but I think it could fit into both. Cool. Is everyone clear on that sort of stuff? Awesome. Okay, and then we have our interactive theater, or our immersive experiences, which we have touched on a little bit in our precursors for escape rooms. So this is when your participants become part of a narrative or a narrative experience. So the main characteristics here is that it's narratively driven. The actors or the facilitators guide the gameplay, and it kind of blurs the line between a game and a performance. So this is not only interactive theater. An immersive experience, for example, is an escape room. Okay, so here we have like a narrative that's driving us towards something. We have our facilitator, which is the game master, and then we have that line of being like, am I the person in the story? Am I just myself? Like it's kind of a game, but it's also puzzles, and it's also being this person that I've been assigned to be, that sort of thing. So examples here are our murder mystery dinner games. So what typically happens here is someone will host, you get assigned a character, you someone dies or multiple people die over the events of the evening, and then you have to try and discover who the killer was. Glass Onion, yes, it's very similar, but I mean this is just a game. It's not it's not real. We obviously get our LARP, we get our escape rooms, and then finally we get ARGs, which we will discuss in a little bit more detail soon. But yeah, so these are immersive experiences. It's not always having to do with acting, but it's the immersiveness of the experience. And they're narratively driven. There is a lot more set up, obviously. It's not as quick. It depends on how, like, what kind of event you're going in. Like escape room is an hour, but maybe a murder mystery dinner thing is 3 to 6 hours. Like, it really depends on the type of activity that you're getting involved in. Cool. So now that we understand what in-person games are, what kind of games we get, we can talk about the characters within games. So not only in digital games, but also physical games. So in most games, you assume a role of a character, whether that's a token that you are assigned, whether that's someone that you are assigned in a video game or something like that. So some examples that I'd like to go through is in escape rooms. Who do you think the characters in escape rooms are? Can just type or chat or yeah. Okay, you. Mhm. Okay, yeah. So like Saskia said, typically it's yeah, the person that is playing the game, so either yourself or the person that you've been assigned to. So I think at Brainwaves you get assigned to be a specific researcher or a certain detective, then you have to pretend you are that person, or you just go in and they were like, "You are our most qualified person here, so you have to do it." And so you're still playing as yourself. So also the DM is another character that we get, but mainly yourself, okay? Oh, sorry, teaser. In board games like Monopoly, what are the characters that we get there? Or what kind of character do you assume there? There's not really a narrative for Monopoly, so yeah, a capitalist, yeah, sort of a tycoon. Yeah. So typically, exactly. So you're playing as a capitalist or something like that, but you're also assigned a token. Okay, you choose your token at the beginning of the game, and that's essentially how you identify yourself in the game or your character within the game. Maybe you're a musty, dusty boot, or you're an iron, or a dog, or a top hat, or something like that. So the token is typically the token is typically your character within the game, and that's how you identify yourself in the game. Narrative games like The Witcher, for example, who or what is the character in that game? I don't even know what a meeple is, to be honest with you. I guess we could Google what is a meeple. Let's see. A small board game piece in a star-like shape that depicts an abstract human form. Okay, so there you go. So I think a token is not human, and then a meeple is probably like a person. Yeah. Okay, so back to my game, or my question. Uh, The Witcher, was that Brendan, the game character himself? I'm guessing that was your answer. Yeah, so basically Henry, yeah, Henry Cavill. Great. Yeah, the main character, the person who the story is about. So in a narrative game, the person that you are playing is the main character. So either it's Geralt, or I don't know if you're playing Baldur's Gate, the specific character that you're assigned. And in games like Sims, who's our character there? The ones you make, the family living in your dream house. Exactly. So that's exactly what I say here. The character you create, or the characters you create, multiple characters. Sometimes this is you, or a version of you that you wish existed, or the best possible version of you, the richest version of you, if you had taste or money or anything like that. Or maybe it's the person you hate the most and you just want to ruin their lives. So the character in your game is someone that you can identify with or feel something about, and really associate associate a lot of your feelings about the game towards. So this is just like an exercise to get you to think about the different kind of characters that you can get in a game, whether that's self chosen, assigned, or even just arbitrary, like a little token. Okay. No job, all the money in the world, perfect life. Yes, I agree. No kids on top of that. So that would be amazing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question. What role do you think dressing up serves when it comes to characters in your game? So this is specifically for in real life games. Do you what kind of thing do you think dressing up serves? Yeah, exactly. Like Saskia said. So immersion. The main factor there is immersion. So for LARPing, for example, it helps with the narrative, it helps with the immersive feeling, it helps with your acting. But then maybe for board games, if you had to dress up as a character from a board game, it might feel a little bit like weird, like why it's a little bit out of place. But for a tabletop game like D&D, you're dressing up as your character because you have to do role playing because it helps you immerse yourself into the character. So the main reason that we do dress up for our characters or characters in games or anything like that is for an immersive purpose to give us a sense of belonging and a sense of better understanding of a character within our game. Now, the second question I want to ask is when can we clarify dressing up as part of a game versus just for pure entertainment? So, the examples that I have here, or the questions I want to ask rather, is what's the difference between wearing a costume, a cosplay, and role playing? Does anyone have an idea there? I'll give you a few minutes. It's quite a loaded question. Okay, yeah, just for fun is for entertainment purposes. Yeah. Okay, so do you not think that like role playing could be for entertainment? Cosplay is dressing to look like a specific character. Role play is acting as the character. Costume is similar to cosplay but isn't a specific character. Yeah, very good, very close. That's a really good explanation or way to think about it. So just to give you an idea here, I've made up this little table here that gives us the reasons that you might want to dress up. So, wearing a costume. Okay, so wearing a costume is all about your themed appearance. So, what you want to be portrayed as or what you're trying to convey. And normally, you don't need to act when it comes to wearing a costume. So, this happens a lot at Halloween parties or just parties in general where they ask you to maybe dress up as the first letter of your name or dress up for Halloween, something scary, dress up as a certain period or decade, maybe the 20s or the 80s. So there you're not specifically playing a certain character, so it doesn't involve a lot of acting. Some people like to do like change their personality when they wear these costumes, that it sets them free, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the level of immersion typically felt when you are wearing a costume is quite low because you still feel like yourself. You're just wearing different clothing. Okay. So if I made everyone dress up as, I don't know, people from Glee or like no, not Glee. Sorry, that's a bad example. People from the 80s. Okay, you'd still be yourself, just wearing different clothes, maybe looking a little bit more groovy or funkier than what you normally look like. Whereas with cosplay, for example, we are more focused on character accuracy. So, like Ethan said, they're looking like a specific character. So this could be from a game or an anime or something like that, a movie. And acting here is a little bit optional. You don't typically have to act because the context in which we are doing cosplay is very specific. We're either going to like a convention, like an anime convention or a gaming convention or something like that, or people dress up and do photo shoots, which doesn't require a lot of acting. If you're doing videos, for example, you might do more physical acting. You don't have to do the voice, you don't have to maybe talk like the character or anything like that, but uh, your nuances, the way you move, that sort of thing might come into play here. And the level of immersion here is more of a medium immersion. And the reason I say it's not low is because typically at conventions, you might have to still put on a show here. Um, which makes you feel like you are that character. So if people want to take pictures with you, if people identify you out in public, they ask you to do certain voice lines or something like that. The immersion there is a little bit more, is a bit higher than just dressing up for a Halloween party. You're expected to know a little bit more about the character and the person that you are, and so you really need to have a little bit more knowledge and immersion in within your character. Then we come to role playing. So role playing is a little bit more on the extreme side. Um, it's less about the costume and the clothing that you're wearing and more about the behavior and the narrative behind or the reason that you're doing what you're doing. So it does require you to do acting, especially in LARPs and RPG games or tabletop games like D&D. You are required to do research on your character, understand your character, that sort of thing. Dressing up for like D&D is not necessarily required every time, but for LARPing, for example, it's quite a necessity. You want to have that higher level of immersion, like I have here on the table. So you have your acting, you're interacting with other people who are also acting. So the immersion there, it's the outfits, it's the behavior, it's the interaction, everything like that is really adding to the higher level of immersion. So the difference here when it comes to dressing up as a character or cosplaying or wearing a costume or role play, the main underlying reason is immersion. What kind of feeling am I getting from dressing up as a character? All right. So that was a lot. I'm going to give about 5 minute comfort break. You can ask any questions in the meantime. Go to the bathroom. Yeah. So we'll come back at five. What time is it now? Yeah. We'll give about 7 minutes. So 5 past 6, we can come back. But yeah, if you have any questions about the assignments or anything like that, you're welcome to pop them here and I'll answer them. But otherwise, I'll see you at 5 past.
Ayla,
Hello.
we have a question about this deliverable
Mm.
for section 2.1, where we have to speak about the challenges. Do we have to give like actual puzzles, or do we have to just give like some ideas of what the puzzles will be, or some like high level challenges like escape this pod, escape that pod, escape this pod, or whatever?
Let me go check. What section was it? 2.2.1.
2.1. I think it's 2.1. Let me just double check.
Defining the theme.
Our document's a bit of a mess right now. So let me just go look at the spec. So yeah,
Um,
2.1 at the bottom, one of the bullet points is challenges.
oh, this is for your narrative.
Yes.
No, challenges in terms of what is the reason that, or what is making them go into this sort of. Wait, no, no,
Oh,
no, wait. No, that's the theme. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing.
yeah.
I was thinking about the narrative. Okay. Provide a comprehensive description of your puzzles room by addressing each of the following challenges. Genre, setting, world, narrative, challenges.
Yeah. So do you want like high level stuff as in like, okay, they're going to unlock some locks here and then find these puzzles? Or will it be something like um they have to escape this room? Or will it be like, okay, this is the puzzle that we have? Because at the moment we have like kind of like ideas for puzzles already in the document,
Mm.
but we just want to make sure that it's correct.
I would say focus more on the idea of the challenge, so not specifically the puzzles themselves. So are you doing physical challenges? Are you doing mental challenges?
Okay.
Are you doing like what's it called? Pattern recognition, that sort of stuff. Because keep in mind this is only for 10 marks. So
Yeah.
and there's 5 bullets here. So each of them is only counting towards 2 marks. So
Okay.
I'm not expecting you to write a paragraph on each puzzle that you're trying to explain or anything like that. It's more an overview of what's challenging in your room, or what challenge you're presenting to the players.
Okay, cool. I understand.
All
Okay,
right.
so okay, we'll just copy and paste those into another document.
All right, no problem. If you're done, I think phase two goes into a little bit more about your puzzles. So,
Okay, got
yeah.
it. I just want to check, Louise, when you're on the call, did you hear the answer?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have it.
All right. Turn the camera back on. All right. So, let's get back into our stuff. Let me open my slides. All right. So, let's continue. The next part that we're going to discuss is ARGs. So, if you don't know what ARGs are, they're basically something called alternate reality games. Okay. So, not to be confused with augmented reality games, so AR games. These games are games where it lets players engage with game elements or game like elements, like narrative and stuff like that, within the real world, within a physical world. Okay. So, in real life games that we were just speaking about. So in many cases over here, we are given a popular game or a popular TV series or something like that, and people who consume these medias are invited to participate as either detectives or storytellers or narrative um, investigators, if you want to call it that, to uncover a hidden story related to that specific media that they're consuming. So, whether it's a game, whether it's a TV series, a movie, anything like that, you are learning a little bit more about the narrative within that world, but using the physical world, using our world. So, you're learning about an alternate reality, or you're experiencing an alternate reality within the current reality that we are existing in. So a lot of times, the games or the puzzles within the game are seamless. Okay, so everything in the real world feels like it could have been in another world, in an alternate reality. Okay, and everything in the world is a puzzle. Okay, so the world itself becomes a puzzle. It could be so simple. It could literally be a business card that you pick up off the street, or a website that you discover, something like that. So I'll go into a little bit more of an example of what this means, but just understand that it's a game that you get to experience a different reality, or feel a part of a different reality, but using the reality that we're existing within at the moment. And the reason you do that is to find out more about a narrative or uncover parts of a story. So a lot of the time, ARGs will incorporate things that have to do with transmedia. So if you don't know what transmedia is, basically it's just multiple forms of media that they use, and which leads to a really nice way of having immersive storytelling. Yeah, exactly. So having a way of having immersive storytelling or transmedia storytelling. So you're telling a story using multiple forms of media. Normally, it's typically one story and it's spread across websites or videos, audio files, posters, a whole bunch of different media that is meant to give you more insight into a narrative. So yeah, like the Minecraft ARGs people are making are online. I
Whatever
think
you
it's like
do at
This
the
Is Not a
crossroads.
Room or something like that. There's one like that. But yeah, some popular ARGs that have been going around or have been around for a long time is I Love Bees, which was associated with Halo 2. And this actually happened when the first trailer for Halo 2 came out, and there was a hidden message within the trailer which led people to a website called ilovebees.com. And on here, there was a whole bunch of stuff on the website that you could read on. And at first, it seems like a typical bee loving website. So it literally has pictures of like a couple who run a beekeeping business. But the more you read into it, or the more you interact with this website, there's like weird, strange things that come up that you start learning about. And then there's puzzles that lead you to locations. I think like you go to a phone booth at one point and you type in a certain number and audio plays, like a real phone booth. I know those don't really exist anymore, but like back in the day, they were quite popular. And so to incorporate or to use that kind of stuff just felt so unique, you know. Um, Something that you use every day can be part of a game or be part of a narrative storytelling. Um, and so as people started picking up these clues, they would post it online and then create communities and stuff. And the reason you need communities for stuff like this is because the clues can go everywhere. They can go like different locations, and I'm talking about across countries. So the companies or the people who plan these sort of things really plan a lot in advance. And they're like, okay, we're going to have a clue in China, we're going to have a clue in America, we're going to have a clue in South Africa. And so what it requires is a collaboration of people. So that's why it's also a part of this in real life in person game. Okay, in person in real life game. Yeah, as I mentioned before, so we're having collaboration with other people. Obviously, you're not going to go fly to China just to go find a clue. You ask on the website, or you ask on a forum or a chat group or something like that, and you build this community. And it's still in real life, even though maybe it's happening over websites and stuff. It still requires people to go out in physical spaces, take pictures and stuff like that, and share the content, and even interact with real life things like a phone booth. Um, so what ended up happening with the I Love Bees is people started learning that there's an artificial intelligence that got stranded on Earth and is now threatening to put itself back together and take over. And so this was essentially the whole narrative that led to the Halo 2 game. And so it gave a whole lot of context to people who are interested in that. Now, I'm not an expert on ARGs. I've personally never been part of one. I think I learned about them for the first time in my second year. I'm not super knowledgeable about them. So all the examples here, I can't give you much context on them. But what I can give you context on is something called Gravity Falls. So if you don't know what Gravity Falls is, it's a Disney animated series that was popular in like about 2020. No, actually, I'm lying, not in 2020. It was way before then. I can't remember the exact years, but I was in high school, so revealing my age. But yeah, so what it features is these twins, these two like middle school aged kids, Mabel and Dipper Pines, and they go and visit their uncle in Portland, Oregon. Uh, for the summer, for their vacation, because their parents are busy with work and whatever, so they send them there for summer vacation, which is quite a few months long for them. So yes, Grunkle Stan, you are right. Who goes and spends the summer? They go spend the summer with him, and he runs a sort of I would say tourist trap souvenir shop. So what he does is he comes up with these really interesting, unique, very fake stories about Gravity Falls. He makes paraphernalia or souvenirs for people to buy, but really like horrible quality and stuff like that. And so these kids, they get a little bit bored with his shenanigans and stuff, and leads them to experience a lot of odd events that happen in this town. Um, And I won't spoil what those are, but eventually it leads them to uncovering mysteries about Gravity Falls, the town that they're in, as well as their family and where their family partakes in all of these mysteries. And how this became an ARG is um, in the end credit scenes of some of the episodes, there was a cipher that would show it. And at first people thought, oh, maybe that's just a Disney XD thing, or maybe someone mistyped something, or the credits are wrong. But episode after episode, at each end credit scene, there was a small little black section with letters or numbers or something like that. And people started realizing, wait, these are cryptograms, these are ciphers that I can try and figure out. So at first, they were Caesar ciphers, and they became a little bit more advanced once people started figuring out the Caesar cipher. And then they started including whispers and stuff like that that were maybe reversed. So if I was speaking a sentence, they would reverse it and then put that in there, and then people would have to try and figure out what that reverse sentence was saying or that whisper was saying, um, which is really like crazy to think that they were doing stuff like this. And what these clues or these ciphers would normally tell you is a little bit about the next episode, like a clue, or maybe the title of the next episode or something funny. But as it started going on, it started getting a little bit more serious. And so this is where the actual ARG people started realizing, oh my gosh, this is an ARG. This is a game that we're playing here with the creators of Gravity Falls. So Alex Hirsch, which is one of the creators, once the final episode aired, and it had a little spoiler there about an ARG topic that was coming up for them to play. He posted something on Twitter, now X, and he posted this poster that had a bunch of ciphers on it, and people figured out and decoded it. And what it eventually led to is you have to find, or you have to go on a quest to find a statue of Bill Cipher, which is one of the antagonists from the series, so one of the bad guys from the series. And if you find it, there's a prize for you. And so people started getting really excited about this and started being like, okay, where do I go from here? And then people started finding things out in public. And I'm talking about people in China, people in Russia, people in America. They started finding this iconic symbol of Bill Cipher, which is this little triangle guy with an eyeball. Um, they started finding clues and ciphers all over where they were staying and stuff like that, which is really crazy to think about. Because like, imagine you're just going to spa or something and you see like a cipher and you're like, wait, this is part of the game. Like, how crazy is it that you get to be a part of something like that, or it's part of your everyday life now? So yeah, people started sharing the clues from Japan, Rhode Island. The Rhode Island one is a great example. That basically they put a poster in a church next to a picture of a nun, a non-existent nun, and there was a number on the nun's picture that you could call. And when you call that picture, you hear a conversation between a nun and Grunkle Stan, which is one of the characters from Gravity Falls, which then leads you to another clue. And then people were posting this online and getting really like a whole lot of communities, like the Los Angeles clue, for example, they actually cut the grass from the top. So if you looked at it from the top down, um, it looked like an eyeball, and the top of the triangle was pointing towards a specific location in a building where you would find another clue. So they really went all out with these kind of things. And eventually, the clue led them to Oregon, which makes sense, Portland, where the series would take place. And so someone actually ended up finding the statue. And it's crazy. They put that statue there for quite a while. And they actually put moss and stuff, like moss seeds. They took glue and they glued it onto the statue to make it look like it had been there for a long time, even though it was maybe there for a few months, because they didn't know how long it was going to take for someone to actually discover this. So you want to make it feel a little bit more authentic. So yeah, the person managed to find the building, the statue, and once they did, they also were able to uncover a treasure. So this was buried under the statue, but not too deep, obviously. But yeah, the winner got a sash that said Mayor of Gravity Falls, so they had been deemed the Mayor of Gravity Falls. They got a little hat similar to Grunkle Stan's. They got like a black light and a notebook, and in the notebook there was a whole bunch of extra stuff about Gravity Falls. And if you use the black light, there's hidden messages, hidden diagrams, that sort of thing. There was like a USB in there with extra content. There was fake gems and fake coins, a music box. There was a whole lot of different things. And so it really like once you've like solved the mystery, you do feel like you got something at the end. It's not just oh well, now I know more about the story. It's a fun experience that people can participate in, and it didn't just stop there. So this happened, I think, in 2014, 2016, somewhere there, and then people obviously started missing Gravity Falls because the show stopped, and it was a great show. So they came out with a book called The Book of Bill, and this was in 2024, so quite recently. And what happened was people started realizing, hey, maybe there's something in this book as well. Now, this is not a ARG specifically, but it was sort of along that vibes, trying to get people to feel the same way that they felt about finding the Bill Cipher statue. So in the book, when you go through like the copyright section and stuff like that, there's a little website there called thisisnotawebsite.com. A lot of people thought, hey, this is a little bit weird. Why would there be a website called thisisnotawebsite.com? And then when they Googled that, or when they, put it on their browser or whatever, it took them to a website and they had to enter a password. And this is when people started getting excited. They were like, okay, we're back. We're doing more things. We're having fun. And so people started speculating what the password is and they couldn't figure it out. And eventually someone started realizing, hey, maybe everything is in the book. If you've purchased the book, maybe there's something has to be here. And what they realize is that if you shift the book at a certain angle, there's a piece of the cover that has a reflective surface. And if you tilt it, the thing says the password is the name of the eyeball doctor. And you're like, who the hell is an eyeball doctor? What does that mean? And then that relates further into the book. So just before you start reading the book, there's a section there that Bill, the character, has recommended for pre-reading, reading before you start reading this book. And one of the books there is The Great Gatsby. And in The Great Gatsby, there's a popular poster or popular scene where you see the main character looking at an eyeball doctor, okay, an optometrist, and his name was T.J. Eichelberg. And if you type that into the website, it would then unlock the website and show you a countdown, which is the middle section over there that I have, which is a little bit brown. And so people started getting more excited, and then eventually the countdown stopped, and it was a blank screen for a few days. And then when you go back, when they went back, it showed one of the characters who's a handyman or an assistant at the shop in the series. He was fixing the website, so the website was under construction, and there was a whole bunch of different messages there that people would get with him, so different dialogue options. And this was a fun way. They actually did have technical difficulties when it came, because there were so many people who were interested and started putting in the password, and it overloaded like their systems, and things didn't go to plan. So they did it in a creative way of including the character and making it seem like the character had messed up the cables, or that one of the monsters from the series had chewed the cables and they're waiting on the new stock to come in. So they tried to still make it part of the game, even though it was a real life issue. So it was a really creative way of going about that. But essentially, once they fixed it, the website came out, and the website itself is not I wouldn't say it's an ARG or a game in itself, but it's more about extra content. So this is what the website looks like, and I actually want to show you quickly if we can go through the website together, because I think it's really cool experience. So, can everyone see the screen? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. So you start off, it's quite dark and everything like that. And when you click, all of a sudden a light shows up. There's also Is that better? Okay, so I'll just turn the audio off. It's not super important to have the audio there. But yeah, so this is the website that you get. Very simple. There's no tabs or anything like that, but it is an interactive website. So if you go and click on this dagger, for example, you see the little Bill Cipher icon. There's things that start coming up that you can read more about the story, and this is not only about the characters from Gravity Falls, but also Gravity Falls itself, the location, like Bill himself. So there's a lot of like different interactive objects here, and there's like carvings on the candle here, on this little prism when the lightning in the background shows. There's little question marks and symbols and stuff like that. If you click on the eyeball, there's more information here. There's a lot of things you can read. You can open this book as well. It leads you to a whole bunch of extra stuff that you can read. You can click on this gold tooth, for example. You get a get out of death free card from Bill Cipher, which you can print. I have tried to click on print, but I think it's probably because I don't have a printer. I don't know what actually prints. So it would be cool if someone could try that out. Hopefully it doesn't give you a virus or anything, but I mean, if multiple people have used this website, so it should be fine. And even if you click on McGucket Labs, so if you know what McGucket is, one of the characters, he's like an inventor, a hillbilly old man. There's a lot about him over here. And then one of the things I found the most interesting about this website is this is actually an input field. So you could type things in and then press enter and stuff would show. So if I leave it blank, for example, it just has nothing there. But if we type in character names or something like that, so like Mabel, she's one of the characters from there. And if I press enter, it doesn't look like anything happened. But the more I press it, we can start seeing that there's like little stickers and stars and stuff that gets added to the scene. And if we keep going, it says the lab is now fully Mabelized. And if you don't know Mabel, she's a very eccentric character. She always wears colorful clothes. She's known for like putting stickers on everything, very like a 12-year-old little girl, like very excitable, always wearing pink, rainbows, unicorns, that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that her name, if we had to type it in here, would add stickers to everything. So it's adding that immersion level to this ARG type of website. If we type in, I think it was pinata, um, again, nothing to do with the characters, but it then shows you Bill Cipher, that one of the characters, being hit as a pinata, and it's like a whole video. So there's a whole bunch of things that you could type in here. Um, and I think I had like a little document with everything. Oh, so if we type in Disney, for example, rat gift censored for your protection. Like, there's just such random things that you could put in here. If you type in Seuss, which is the maintenance man, there's a special letter that comes up from Seuss to Dipper, for example, and he tells you to type in pinata. If you type in Stan, it takes you to Brass Knuckles, like a Brass Knuckles eBay page, which is very interesting. I know you can't see it because I'm only showing the one screen, but it literally takes you to, I'll pop it in the chat, then you can have a look yourself as well. This is the page it takes you to, Brass Knuckles for Stan. If you type in Bill, again, it opens a Wikipedia page to this page over here, which is like a I page. I think there's another one where if you type in Bill, it actually takes you to the definition of a triangle. Like, it's really silly things. Like, it's not, it's really just for fun. It's not meant to provoke any thoughts or anything like that. And it's just a fun way to interact. And that's what ARGs are all about. It's just another way of interacting with media in a fun way. So I'll stop sharing that quickly and then get back to the main content. Yeah, there we go. All right. So yeah, that's the main example that I wanted to show you, or so that you could have a better understanding of ARGs and what it means. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed. Yeah, I love Gravity Falls, and so seeing all these things is really fun, and how they make it fun for the people who enjoy this kind of stuff. Anyways, moving on from Gravity Falls, we have parts of an ARG, things that are important when it comes to an ARG. So we get something called a rabbit hole, we get clues, we get agents, and then we get our ending or our reward. So when it comes to the rabbit hole, this is our initial entry point for our game. So something that is disguised or something that doesn't seem like anything until you look in a little bit deeper. And it's known as the hook, or like the thing that draws you into realizing, oh, this is an ARG. This is something fun. So can anyone tell me what the hook or the rabbit hole was for the Gravity Falls example that I just gave? The green input field. Okay, so no, that was already past the book. Yeah, so the end of the episode, that was our rabbit hole. The rabbit hole was people realizing, oh, there's a cipher here, there's something going on here, there's something different, something I didn't expect to be there. Yeah, so something that draws you into being like, huh, that's a bit different. Like it takes you into the initial experience. A bill cipher. Okay. We then get our clues, which I mean, you guys know what clues are at this point, but it helps people discover the game. Okay. So it leads the players to new locations, new objectives, other clues, other characters, and it often uses that transmedia stuff that I was talking about earlier. So this can be phone booths, websites, audio recordings, posters, uh, business cards, anything that you can find. Those are part of the clues. Okay. We then get our agents. So these are people, characters, personas, entities that are controlled by the game master or the person who's designed the game. Um, they're interactive players, sorry, they're not interactive players. They interact with the players of the game. They deliver the story, they manage the narrative, they give clues. This is sounding a little bit familiar. So in escape rooms, for example, our game master is one of the agents. So your game master can obviously be the person who created the room, which is, then they're controlled by themselves, or the game designer is themselves. But you also get people who then create the rooms, and then there's a different person who is controlled by them or is in charge of them. So very similar to Brainwaves, Natalie makes some of the rooms, then she has her game masters who deliver those rooms, who facilitate those rooms, who give you clues, who help you, that sort of thing. And in a real world sense, I say real world because these are real world characters, but the characters that they're playing, or the agents, the personas that they're playing, are not real. You get people like whistleblowers or AI assistants. So these will be people like someone has posted a whistleblowing website or something. They say this community or this company has been doing XYZ. And even though they're a real person, they're not really whistleblowing. They're adding to the story. They're giving you clues. Someone who's in distress saying, please help me, I've been abducted, blah, blah, blah. They're not actually abducted. They're just playing as a person. So they're real people, but they're not, the people that they're playing are not real. And so they communicate through emails or websites, social media, video logs, that sort of thing. They're there to add, they're the people who add to the clues. Is that clear? Sorry, I don't know if I explained that the best. Okay, but if there are any questions, let me know and I can go over it again. Okay, then we obviously get the end part of our ARGs, the reward, the thing that makes this all worthwhile. And there's a whole bunch of different possible outcomes. It's not always actually winning anything. So sometimes it's just finding the last puzzle, feeling that satisfaction of, yes, I figured everything out. Sometimes there's a narrative climax or a resolution, or even tying up loose ends. So maybe something in the game that you were playing doesn't make sense. You go like an actual digital game, for example, and then you go have this ARG quest, and then something from the game that didn't make sense to you now finally makes sense. Or there's a resolution to a character's arc or something like that. Sometimes there's a release of something or an event, a special event that you get invited to celebrate something, a transition to new content. So maybe a game is coming out with a series, and this is their big announcement towards that series. So like how we have Fallout, right? We have the game, and then maybe they did like I'm not saying they did an ARG, but if they did, maybe it would be transitioning to the series that they're trying to portray, or giving you hints or something like that to what would be coming up in the next game or something. And even then a public declaration or a physical reward, right? So like finding Bill Cipher's statue, getting that little treasure box, that actual feeling of getting something at the end. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that you would end it, or things that you would get as a possible outcome for finishing an ARG. So before we move on, is everyone clear about ARGs? Is there anything that's not clear? Anything that you want me to go over again? Yeah. I'll give it like 2 minutes, just in case someone is typing. Okay. Also, these slides will be put on ClickUp, so if anything doesn't, if you don't have any questions now and you have questions later, you can look at this, you can ask me. All right, I am going to move on. Cool. So let's go back to LARPing. So I know not everyone might remember what LARPing is, but LARPing is a role playing game guided by a set of rules that gives the character or the people playing these characters full control over the decisions that the character makes, the behavior of the characters, and it's normally set in a fictional reality or a real life setting, even though it's like it's typically a non-fictional. No, it is typically a fictional set. What am I saying? Okay, it's in a physical world with a narrative. That's what we should say, because it could be real, it could be not, depending on the type of LARPing, which we'll also get into now. So just understand that it's a role-playing game guided by rules in a physical environment. Okay, so there are characteristics that you should keep in mind when you are talking about LARPing. So, what are the rules that we might get when you are portraying a character? How are you going to know when you should be in character, when you should be out of character? So, these are sort of rules that the game master would stipulate or you would discuss amongst yourselves as the characters in this. So, if I need to go to the bathroom, do I need to go to the bathroom as my character? If I'm going to eat something, do I need to eat it as my character? When can I come in and when can I go out of my character? What are the rules or the boundaries there? So that's something that you should consider when you're doing LARPing or when you are talking about LARPing. The other thing is the overall theme. What kind of theme are we going for? Are we going for a historical theme? Are we going for a serious theme? Are we going for a fantasy theme, medieval theme? So, what is the overarching theme that we're going for when we are doing this activity? And then also, what is the specified area? Obviously, it has to be in a physical space, but is this indoors? Is this outdoors? Is this uh, low lighting? Is it midday? What's the time? You know, the area that we're actually going to be participating in for our LARP. And so this comes a lot when we come and talk about the different styles of LARPing. So these are things to consider. Um, the first type of LARPing that we get is theater style LARPing, very similar to the interactive theater that we had. But instead, here, it's typically indoors. It's not outdoors. It's typically indoors, maybe on a stage or a certain setup or a scene that's been set up for you. And it typically lasts a few hours, maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4, depending on how much fun you're having. And I say that because with theater style, it's relying a lot on improv. So you don't need a lot of preparation from the people who are playing as the characters in this LARP. So they might basically, as they get there, they get given a character and then they have to go from there. There's no backstory. There's no this is how you should act or anything. It's really up to a lot of interpretation, and the characters themselves will decide. And this happens a lot with gaming conventions. So like Comic Con and stuff like that, there might be a certain TV series. I think the one that they had recently was Only Murders in the Building, where you had to take on a role as a detective, and then you can win prizes as you solve stuff in there. Another example is a murder mystery game, like the dinner parties that I mentioned. You might just get told, "Hey, this is your character. Do what you want." This is, it's not a lot of information that's been given to the characters, and it's typically indoors. We then get our face style LARPing, which has a lot to do with two opposing factions. So this is less focused on individual characters. You can then come up with your own characters and your own backstory and everything, but it's more focused on two different groups of people or factions. So, and typically they are opposing factions. They're fighting against one another. Not always physically. Most of the time in these faced ones, you are actually doing physical fighting, but there's a whole lore behind why these factions are fighting, and you get to choose which faction you want to be on. So the I know it sounds silly, but the most relevant example that I can think of is Overwatch, for example. You could have chosen if you want to be part of Talon, which is like the evil people, or if you want to be part of Overwatch, the good people. Um, and so then you choose your faction and then you fight depending on that. So, but depending on your faction's beliefs and standards and stuff like that. And these are typically outdoor, and it's quite a large venue that they need because people are physically fighting. They have tools and barriers and stuff. Obviously, they're not hurting each other. It's more like a touch rugby kind of vibe. Okay, there's still respect. Some people take it literally and they want that, and that's what they sign up for. But other people are just there for the vibe. They're there for the conflict, the drama of it all. So that's our face style. So typically outdoors, a little bit more aggressive, more faction based, less about the individual characters that you are. You want to do this one? Okay. Interesting. We then get our Nordic style LARPs, which is to deal with a lot less more, or that does not make sense. That's not a good sentence. It has a lot less to do with the competitive or aggressive nature of maybe the face style, for example. And it's more about addressing or experiencing, should I say, serious or historical, political, socio-economical, or emotional themes. Um, so the idea here is play to lose, which sounds a little bit silly because if you're playing a game, you'd want to win, right? If you're competitive like me, you want to win. But in Nordic style LARP, you're focusing more on the experience and the drama of playing the game. So you actually will go and make choices that won't necessarily be the best choices for your characters, but will give you more drama, should I say, something more interesting, and it's less focused on winning and more about experiencing something. So if you're doing a Nordic LARP about the plague, you're not going to be like, I'm not going to drink that water. No, I'm not getting the plague. No, you're going to drink that water because you want to know what it was like to be in the plague. Obviously, you're not actually getting sick. But you want to act as that, you want to act as though you're getting sick and stuff like that. So people find pleasure in that kind of stuff. Not me. I think it's a little bit too serious for me. I think I would go more for, the interactive theater, but each to their own. So yeah, the idea there, less competitive. This can be indoors and outdoors depending on the event. So historical events, like a war will be outside, that kind of stuff. They have physical props sometimes that make gunshot noises and stuff like that. But if it's emotional, maybe it's indoors or something like that. It really just depends on the theme. And then we get Jubentia, which is a newer form of LARPing. Yeah, in Airsoft, they have fake gunshot bullets. They probably use something like that, but they model the guns and everything to look quite old, depending, or if you're doing like an older scene. But yeah, back to Jubentia. This is also known as scripted murder. So this became quite popular in 2010, and it's more of a Asian style LARP. So it combines this idea of like a live action Cluedo kind of vibe, but also interactive theater kind of energy. But like I said, it is Asian based. So what happens here is you have a scripted murder. So it's a game format very similar to the murder mystery, but it's slightly different in the sense that it's a lot more scripted and it's a lot more serious. So players who get involved, this is also typically it's quite a small group, but players will be given a sort of like package before they start playing the game that has the character details, the character background, how they would behave, basically the narrative already laid out, scripts that they have to learn ahead of time, so that you're actually acting very similar to interactive theater, but not improv. And again, solving a mystery or murder, they don't give that away, but certain characters will know certain things. And so you uncover this murder mystery through secrets and learning about the other characters around you. And these can last quite a few days or a few hours as
If you
well.
stumble,
And it's, like I said, a bit like live action Cluedo, but including learning a. Yeah, it does sound a bit complicated. I agree. I can't imagine getting like, first of all, remembering all my lines like it's like combining acting with Cluedo and live action theater, and like it's a whole lot of different styles that are combined. So it's not just a murder mystery; it's a lot more. And so that's why it became popular, and it's just spreading and spreading. So it's good to know about these things that are becoming more popular. Yeah, that's true. Johan's an actor. We've seen the material. So all right. Now that we've spoken about the ARGs and we've spoken about LARPing and in-person games and stuff like that, I do want to do a short exercise, and you'll be doing this in your groups. So what we're going to do is there are two options here. I would like each group to choose one, preferably different ones. So I know there's only two options. So you can, if you choose the same one, it's not a train smash, but it would be nice to get different opinions. So what I'd like you to do is break out into your groups. I can't make breakout rooms because for some reason UP doesn't have the premium version of Google. So you might have to use Discord or join in your own Google Meet call or something like that. And I'll give you about 15 minutes or maybe 10 minutes, I think. And option one is to do research on an ARG that existed, preferably not like I Love Bees or Gravity Falls, like I've already discussed. And what you need to do is just identify the rabbit hole, so that initial hook, some of the clues. You don't have to discuss all the clues or anything like that. The agents, if there were any, and then what was the end result of the game. And you can just do this in a small PDF, and then one of you or a few of you can present this. You don't have to put your camera on. You can just use your mic, preferably a mic. Typing this out and me reading it is not going to be fun. And then the second option is to do research on a specific style of LARP. So one of the ones that I've mentioned, if you want. And then just identifying those characteristics that I spoke about. So the rules of being in and out of the character, what are typical rules that those apply, what is an overarching theme. So you can speak about a specific LARP event maybe that happened, and then the area that they play in. I know I've mentioned like a large area, but if you could be specific, so maybe it's in a forest and or it was at this specific location, something like that. Yeah, so like I said, you're going to go do the research on this for about 10 minutes, come back, present your findings, and then we can do like a small discussion if we agree or disagree. You are allowed to use AI for this, but I please ask you to, like, if you are going to use it, please don't come here and just read the AI output. I could just easily do that myself. I want you guys to get a deeper understanding of what these things mean and like actually understand what you're saying. So if you are going to use AI, at least like when you're presenting it, put it in your own words so that I can see that something was cooking in there, that you understand why we're doing this. It's just to give you things to think about, and also things that you can think about for your escape room. What is your rabbit hole in your escape room? What is, the specified area in your escape room? There won't be an assignment or anything on this, so that's why I want to cover it now. So can I ask, who would like to do option one, the ARG option? First one. Who's going to be first? The first name. Okay. Okay. Oh, the girls are fighting.
Oh, no. I said, oh no, I typed it before you started speaking because I was like, okay, I guess both groups are going for laughing.
Okay, since Brendan spoke first, he gets LARPing, and then the other group will do ARG. I did say the first person to say. So sorry, Ethan. Okay, so they will get LARP, and then the second group will get the ARG. So yeah, I will give you 10 minutes. So let's regroup at 55. So at 5:27, and then we'll do a quick presentation. All right. See you soon.
Wow, dit is net soos halfpad gestop.
What the hell?
Die ouder van die Discord kan dit delete. Dan kan ze het woord doen.
Almal is owners. Almal is admin.
Okay, maar ek weet nie of julle gesien het dat ek getik het nie. Ek
Yes.
weet nie of dit
World
just
War II is of
ja, in my opinie is dit LARPing. Ek sien mense
Ek
op
het 'n screenshot gevat van wat ons moet doen.
Ja,
Het iemand 'n screenshot? Okay.
ja, laat ek gaan nie in die chat nie want dis ek weet nie, dis vir my irriterend om nou in te gaan. Ek gaan net in die escape room channel. Ja, there's net
Ja.
rules for being in or out of the character overarching theme specified play area. So wat ek weet, kan ek gejap oor die airsoft of as jy
Wag. Voordat jy begin jap, kan ek net
ja,
dokument sodat ek kan skryf terwyl jy jap.
okay.
Ek gaan dit nou met almal doen.
Ons het 8 minute. Sy het maar gesê 5 voor.
Ja, 5 oor, nie 5 voor nie.
O, shit, okay. Ja.
Het is 15 minuten. So it's
O, okay.
Okay, you see document. Okay, ja. Go.
Well, jy nou stop pressure op my. So dis essentially dis is World War en dan is daar twee kante gewoonlik. Jy kry ek het ook in ene gegaan waar daar die Russians versus die Ukrainians was. En dan is dit essentially die Russians het limited lives gehad en die Ukrainians kon die hele tyd gerespawn het en dan het dit gegaan oor soos guerrilla warfare waar die Russians moes essentially slim gewerk het om objective te doen terwyl die Ukrainians probeer om hulle te stop. Ja, so ietsie. En dit ek amper gejoin in 'n ander ene waar dit essentially wêreldoorlog whatever was. Ek dink kom ons sê maar net 2. En dan is dit letterlik ander airsoft gewere. Dan kan jy ek kon net hulle goed gehuur het, maar hulle het essentially World War II geweertjies vir dit gehad. En dan het jy essentially soos hoe die airsoft goeders werk is daar soos 'n buitezone waar as jy geskiet word, loop jy na die buitezone toe en dan kan jy jap met mense as jy konflik gehad het met iemand en dit moet geresolve word. Ja, dit gebeur. Dan moet jy gaan praat met die admin want ek het byvoorbeeld een van my Ukraine mense geskiet want hy het letterlik 'n Russian uniform aangehad, maar ek was soos wat ons is aan die Ukraine kant toe kom met 'n Russian uniform aan. Maar whatever. En wat moet ons nog overarching themes spesifiek play area? So ja, daar's die play area is gewoonlik in 'n bos of in geboue. So ek het in 'n bos gespeel en dan sit dan die albei kante en dan het jy ook ietsie waar daar's geboue, daar's plekke, daar's letterlik plekke in Germany wat hulle eie geboue gemaak het waar in plaas van dat jy albei kante kan die kante verander volgens hoe die game aangaan. So jy kry verskriklike groot airsoft games wat deur 'n hele week gaan waar soos letterlik 'n hele week. So jy moet jou eie cooking goeders utensils saambring, jou eie kos, jy moet vir jouself sorg. Een van jou squad leader het letterlik 'n radio in te call as daar iets verkeerd gaan. Jy word afgedrop in die middel van die aand waar jy in 'n van gery het en jy letterlik spring daar uit en dan moet jy loop vir soos 'n hele dag om by 'n sekere area uit te kom. Daar's mense wat helikopters het letterlik en kan scouting doen vir die span en sulke goeters. So dit is super cool. Ek sou graag in my lewe een keer dit wil doen, maar dit gaan probably nie regtig gebeur nie want daai is bietjie overkill, maar dit is 'n super cool ding wat ek het baie van nou en ek glo nog van kleins af om sulke goed te kyk.
Thanks for fun. Maar
Ja.
ook so duur.
Ja, so ek het daar
Dit
soos in
klink baie van.
ek het daar in soos die airsoft normale gespeel waar dit soos letterlik soos die Ukraine en Russian ene en dit is soveel moeiliker as wat jy sou dink want jy kan glad nie mense sien nie. Jou geweertjie maak baie saak. Soos daar ek was geskiet deur 'n ouetjie met 'n DMR. Dis is 'n baie long range geweertjie en ek het hom nie eens gesien nie. En jy moet sit in 'n bos vir soos 2 ure en daar gebeur niks nie en dan finally gebeur daar iets en dan is daar konflik en dis letterlik dit voel baie meer realisties as ek dit vir jou maar kan sê. Maar ja. Okay. Ek het klaar gehelp.
Wat is die reëls vir karakter? in die bos?
So daar is so met die World War 2 is daar so is dit baie meer streng in karakters en byvoorbeeld die een wat ek gedoen het is dit is kind of streng met die karakter, so dis essentially jy het jou leader het die radio en hulle doen gewoonlik soos nie die roleplaying nie, maar hulle praat in soos actual terme van ons gaan nou na hierdie area toe, in watse area is julle sodat ons nie julle vasloop en letterlik julle mekaar begin skiet nie en sulke goeie. So en dan gewoonlik sodra jy uit van die play zone uitgevat word, dan is jy uit van die roleplay uit as jy dit so kan sê. En dan 'n ander ding is daar's ook sekere weird reels, soos daarso is ek dink die blue light reel. Dan essentially moet almal vir mekaar skree blue light, maar dit beteken die actual soos polisie in Suid-Afrika het gekom en hulle mag net seker maak as nie actual gewere nie. So jy wil nie 'n kind met 'n geweertjie hardloop na kop toe nie. So almal moet vir mekaar skree blue light sodat almal net verstaan okay, die game is klaar. En jy kry ook 'n ander ding genoem goggle off of so ietsie So almal het goggles wat aan is, maar sodra iemand se of mask on en off, jy kry ook goggles te be honest. Maar sodra jou masker afgeval het, dan skree almal mask op. En dit het actually gebeur toe ons gespeel het. Dan moet almal net ophou skiet vir 'n rukkie en dan sou hulle sê continue. En dan sou die admins, was gewoonlik soos referees wat in die middel van die fights oral net rondloop. Hulle is soos, jy kan hulle baie duidelik sien want hulle het soos jackets aan. Hulle word baie keer raak geskiet per ongeluk. En dan sou hulle sê as daar so 'n issue is en sulke goeters en hulle sou kan radio na die actual admins van die groot game. En daar is ook goeters soos airsoft vir jou soos as jy moet jou airsoft kan gaan toets om net seker te maak die PSI op dit is nie te hoog nie. Want anders kan jy die airsoft pellets kan letterlik in iemand se vel en vassit as dit te hoog is. Dit het gebeur met iemand daai dag. Sulke goeters, so dit was cool. Ek laat dit nou baie meer scarier klink as wat dit is, maar dit is baie cool.
Ek dink dit is veilig oorlog.
Ekskuus?
Dis 'n veilige oorlog. Jy kan seer word, maar dis nie soos
Ja.
doodmaak oorlog.
Ek het 'n blou kol gekry van die ouetjie wat my met die DMR geskiet het, want hy het my van baie naby af moes skiet ongelukkig. Want ek was besig om na hom toe te loop. Ek nie eens geweet hy's daar nie. Daar's mense met freaking ghillie suits en ek was in dieselfde bos met hulle en hulle is aan my kant en na 15 minute van wat ons sit, het ek hulle verloor. Ek weet nie meer waar hulle is nie en ek van where are you guys? En hulle begin te beweeg soos, hier is ons. Hallo. Just this actually insane. Hoe goed ek julle
Okay, maar ons
sê.
het nog helfte van die goed nie geantwoord nie. Hulle wat overarching theme specified play area het daar nou geantwoord in die
Ek
bos
het-
of in 'n
Okay, ja. Die rules en dan die specified play area. En die overarching theme is letterlik net daai van World War II of Ukraine versus Russia. Is dit wat die ding vra?
Ja, war theme warped in two countries. Sweet.
Wat het Johan nou gesê? Ek het
War between two countries.
Griet net Louise mic
Something
like.
War between two countries.
Okay. Okay, maar ja, ek het gedink dis nog 'n goeie voorbeeld, 'n random voorbeeld van laping wat sê dit nie dalk so oor gedink het nie.
Ek wil net 'n structure reset.
Ja, ekskuus, ek het 'n bietjie gejap daar. Maar ja, ek wil baie
Net excited geraak.
ek wou baie graag die week ene doen waar jy letterlik jy word net ingegooi. Jy het jou eie camping gear, so jy het soos 'n massive backpack met cooking gear in en alles. En jy moet net vir jouself sorg.
Okay, wag. Hou net gou praat vir 2 sekondes. Kan ek net
Sorry,
Okay.
Brendan. Ek het geluister.
ek het geluister, maar ek wil net gou iets sê want ons moet teruggaan op
Alright,
call. Kan jy net dit wat jy alles ons gesê het net sê,
the time
maar
is
in 'n
done.
structure,
Do we
soos
need
die
a few more
structure wat sy
minutes?
gevra
How
het, die
you feeling?
karaktergoed en dan die overarching theme en dan die play area.
Moet ek dit net oor sê in daai structure.
En daai structure, yes please, ja. Ek kan nie alles onthou nie en ek kon nie vinnig genoeg tik nie.
Rules for being in and out of the game. Daar is 'n letterlike
Is
play
anyone
area.
actually there?
Is met ons klaar wees.
Can we please
Ja.
just have
Ja.
2 more minutes?
2 more minutes. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Ja, play area is letterlik soos 'n bos of 'n gebou en dan die overarching theme is soos die World War II of een of ander oorlog gewoonlik.
Okay, maar as ons teruggaan, kan jy net dit dan daar vir ons sê please. Ons
Sê
tyd is
net daarvoor.
ons tyd is op.
Okay.
Nog 'n minuut.
Okay, jy het net nou. Jy is nou die spokesperson.
Ja, ek
Ja.
sal ja. Ek weet nie, ek sal maar net ja. Ek sal kind of probeer die struktuur volg, maar ja, I don't know, ek gaan maar net ja.
Knock yourself out.
Ja, have fun.
Alright.
Terwyl hy nou
Okay,
Terwyl
so
hy
I
nou
see
hier
you
is.
joined back. Does that mean your group is ready? Or not your group, but the group.
the group.
Nee, ek
I don't know. We keep interrupting each other, so just give me a second.
No problem. You guys can take another 2 minutes.
Okay, Johan, wat sê jy?
Tog ons is reg.
Johan, wat sê jy?
terwyl almal nog hier is, sal ek net vir sê van die masterplan dokument. Daar's nog 3.5 goed oop in van die Factors of Games. Dis meer goed soos in line met die design van die puzzles. So, dat is die design van die puzzles. So ek hoop ek help met daai en voordat ons nou sit môre.
Okay, kan jy ons net asseblief na klas daar praat? Ek sal dit waardeer.
Ja.
Ons kan nie nou alles gelyk doen nie. Ek verstaan jy wil daaroor praat, maar kan ons dit ook net na klas doen?
Ja, ons kan na klas dan so ons gou vinnig daaroor hê.
Ja, ek wou net sê voordat ons nou almal ander goed doen na die klas.
Okay, wel ek meen ek sal aan die gewerk het na die klas anyway. So. Okay, maar Ayla het gevra of ons reg is. So.
Ja, okay. Ek
Let's go.
gaan maar aangaan hier. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we're ready.
Ja, ons sorted.
All right. So I guess then you guys can go first. Go ahead. So you guys
Okay.
are the LARP group.
Yes, it was essentially just me yapping, to be honest, and so it was on the same topic of the airsoft. So I just literally continued with it. Wait, now I need to have 2 documents open. Okay. But essentially with the LARPing with airsoft is, so I personally joined one time in airsoft where there was the like actual theme of it was Ukraine versus Russia, because that was actually what was happening at the moment. And apparently it was like an actual situation, and they wanted to like kind of in a silly, not silly way, but like a fun way replicate it. So essentially, the Russian people had to do certain objectives, and they only had 3 lives. And if they got shot, they needed to be revived with an IV kit. If someone didn't come with an IV kit, they are dead and out of the game completely. And the game was from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. So it was very, very long. And so I started at the Russian side. I got shot by my own teammate, and he used up all the IV kits already. So I immediately went over to the Ukraine. The Ukraine had continuous lives, so they just run in as little squads, like randomly new created squads. And there's always a leader. He has a walkie-talkie, and they do like the role playing with each other. Not role playing, but more of just like they kind of formally talk in a squad manner of we're going on this side, we're going on that side. So, and then like the play area, so it's normally between 2 play areas, depending, but it's essentially either a really big bush area or a building. The quick games are normally in like a big building. Our game was in a large bush area, but you do also get something, there's a really popular airsoft game where you spend an entire week doing it, and you essentially have your own cooking kit. You get dropped in a van at night in the middle of the woods, and you and your squad need to take care of each other, and the squad leader has a walkie-talkie if something goes wrong. So that's like a very extreme roleplay version of it. And yeah, so the rules are essentially just you stick to the game inside of the play area, and normally if people have some kind of conflict, they go outside of the play area and talk with the admins about it or stuff like that. I can't remember what I was to talk about, but I don't want to waste too much time. I think that was kind of the biggest of it.
Yeah.
The in and out. There was so what Brendan told us also on the call is usually there's signals that is given for in and out of characters. So usually when you're inside the circle or the area where the war is actually happening, that means that you are in character, and when you're outside the circle. And then one funny thing he told us is there might be he said code blue, which means the police shows up because they get get alarmed by the gunshot. So then
Wow.
they're like, okay, everyone stop, don't shoot.
Yeah, and everyone has to scream code blue so that one of the kids don't start running to a cop and start shooting him and stuff like that. And then the other one was if your mask falls off, and everyone screams mask off because you don't want people shooting each other in the eye.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a really interesting example. If I can ask one more question on that, what type of LARP would you specify that as?
Oh,
out
what
of the
type?
styles. Yeah, the
Oh,
styles. Remember, we spoke about theater, we spoke about Fest, we spoke about Nordic, and we spoke about the Japanese, the Asian one, Japan Dash, something like that. I forgot the name.
Saskia?
I already said Fest. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I think it's a combination. So here, I think it is Fest mainly because you have your two factions, right?
yeah,
You have your
yeah,
Ukraine and Russia. But I also think that it's Nordic because it's dealing with a serious theme, right?
yeah,
It's dealing with actually something that's actually happening. So
yeah,
this is a great example to show you how it can overlap. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one. And like you said, it's in quite a big area, but it's also inside a building, right? So that also leans towards the theater one. And you didn't have like like specific roles to play, like it was improv, right? So that also leans towards the theater. So
yeah.
there are a lot of overlaps when it comes to LARP. So yeah, this was a great example, a good talking point, I think, for a lot of people. Is there anything the other group wants to ask before we move on? All right, cool. Then let's hand over to the second group. Please tell us a little bit about an ARG that you've heard of or you've researched.
Okay, I'll start. I think we decided to research the ARG for the Why So Serious Dark Knight. All right. So basically, it just started off where there were stencils, like, of graffiti, basically spelling out why so serious. And then following this, there was these $1 bills with basically UV codes appearing in like different cities. And it led you, like, if you scan, like, like the UV light over it, it would read whysoserious.com. So it basically for like recruitment website, like brought people onto like this website, and you could like there was printable like things you can do for that. There was riddles on the website. There was even like a big thing that happened where someone printed like one of the Joker cards from the site and brought it to like Comic-Con in like 2007, and it was big like forums, and it sparked like a lot of online talks, and there was Skyrus and clues. There was all like hype for the movie coming out. So that was like everyone talking about it as well. And then there was also, leading from that, there was also emails and text that also snowballed like this whole like talks around like the cities. So, and there was always like these clues and like puppet masters that came out that was also like sending out like different things on the streets for people to find, discover, and talk about online. So yeah, so that's what we were researching as we got interrupted.
Nice. I think that's a great example because I think a lot of people know at least what Batman is or who the Joker is. So it's a
Yeah.
good entry point, I think, for a lot of people to understand. So if I could just ask for the end game or the rewards section there, is that it was the release of the film, The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
Is that
So basically, all the clues led up to kind of a robbery of a semi truck that was kind of like sent out by the henchmen. So if you unlock it, it lent you to like the semi truck for the and it was placed outside the film's like premiere site. And then on like the final message, it said no more puzzles. So kind of just like ended off the whole thing.
okay? So there wasn't like a screening of the film or anything. It was just
So it was the premiere. So yeah,
oh, so then if people figured it out, they got to go watch the premiere.
yes,
Okay, that's a cool reward, I think.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great, guys. Are there any questions from the other group about this?
I'm good. Was interesting.
Okay, awesome. That does bring us to the end of class. Well, in terms of content, at least. There's just one more thing I want to bring to your awareness. In the next week, I will be sending out an email just asking you about your planned dates for your final escape room. So when the IMY211 students can actually come do your escape rooms. It's in the schedule. You can choose one of the dates that I've in that week that I've specified. This is just so that I can start communicating to the IMY211 students to make sure that they sign up in time and everything like that, so that you guys can also get their contact details, discuss with them times and everything. So I would like at least 1 or 2 days, so 2 dates, because you might have like 3 or 4, actually you might have a few groups, 3 or 4 groups per group, so 6 groups in total, something like that, depending on how many people you want to play your game. So yeah, let me know. I'll send out an announcement though. You need to think about the dates. You need to think how many people you want in your escape room, and also the location details like that. So just keep that in mind. Are there any final questions before we close off? All right, but I'm always available on Discord, just not on the weekends and stuff like that. But you can pop me a message on Discord, you can email me. Yeah, and thank you for the class. It was really fun and interactive today. And yeah, I will see you guys when you start doing your play testing, and possibly with brainwaves as well. We just need to check. Your next one, I believe, is to actually, the next time we will see each other is when you guys are play testing each other's escape rooms. So when you, I'll get your question, no stress. So you guys will be setting up your escape rooms, playing each other's escape rooms in the regular class time on that day. So that will be in person, but there's no lecture content actually happening. You're using this to do one of your assignments to get feedback on your escape rooms. All right, question.
It looks like 3 things. Is it okay if we sort of ask you for feedback on certain parts of our deliverable, just to see if we're on the right track? Like if we send it to you, ask for feedback before we send it.
Not really, because then I'm technically marking it, which is then unfair to other people, because
Fair
then they
enough.
can also ask me feedback, and that's not really, like, I can always answer questions if you don't understand something, but I can't say maybe add this, maybe talk about that, because then I'm essentially leading you. I'm doing the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's make a
So
shot.
yeah. So that I can't give feedback, but I can always answer anything that you're confused about.
Thank you. That's all.
Yeah. All right, cool. Then you guys are welcome to leave, and I will see you when we have our next session. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bit of a breeze today. Okay.
Oh, julle, hoe gaan het met julle?
Hoe gaan het met Oh my
Ek
goodness.
weet nie eens of julle dit kon hoor nie. Het dit ge...
Ja, die Aaron.
Ja, ons kan.
Jy moet dan fix, Johan.
Ek kan nie. Die edit sound werk nie.
Wat werk nie?
Die edit sound werk nie. Ek stuur vir julle die MP3. Waar is hy dan?
Kom
Okay,
maar.
wel,
Bye,
Louise,
Louise.
jy hoef nie hier te wees nie, is okay.
Ja.
Ek het gesê dis 18.
Okay. Okay, Johan.
So ek het nog 'n uur.
Okay, Johan, wat's fout?
Ek wys nou. Volgens my ek het te veel tabs oop.
Bit of a breeze today, gentlemen. Do even some like
Wil jy
it
baie tabs sien? Ek kan vir jou baie tabs uit.
Hier is my tab sien met my Zotero. Ek het,
Okay.
daar is net IMY 773.
Okay.
Okay, so dit is nog net hierdie 4 stukkies, dan is die hele dokument het iets in elke section. Hierdie net ek gedink van met